So for those of you who may not know Aden's the Director of Marketing for Disruptive Advertising. He leads Disruptive's internal marketing team and has his fingers in every nook and cranny of the online marketing space. He's a compulsive innovator, and he has multiple patents to his name, including several for a medical diagnostic toilet that's currently being developed for consumer use. So without further ado, Aden, thanks very much for joining us today. Please take it away.
Okay, great. A lot of great questions, and I think there's quite a few questions that we can get into at the end, but I think if we go through this may actually answer some of the questions as well. So let's start off just by taking a step back a bit here and asking the question, what is marketing all about? Really, it's all about connecting with potential customers, right? You've got people who have some sort of need. Maybe they need your blue shoes, or they need a pair of blue shoes and you've got a pair of blue shoes, or they need tires, they need a chiropractor, they need something. And it's something that you or your business can offer. And so marketing is all about bringing those two things together. Now with that in mind, talking about connecting, what is the best way to connect with someone? Say you're interested in dating someone new. Is it effective to go stalk their Facebook profile and say, oh yeah, they love Harry Potter, I love Harry Potter too, that means it's a match made in heaven? Can you change your relationship status? No, you can't. Same thing kind of applies to marketing. As marketers, we try to do those sorts of things all the time. We go on Facebook, we go to AdWords, we look at all these things that tell us about our customers and try to create ads that will spark their interest. But really, it's all about, if we're not actually going and having a conversation with someone, it limits our ability quite a bit, which is why I love Olark Live Chat. Because live chat is all about having a conversation, getting to talk to people, getting to connect. I mean, take that same example I was using before. Now, if I'm walking by that same girl and I see that she's got a Harry Potter sticker on the back of her car and I go, oh, I'm a huge fan too. What movie is your favorite? And all of a sudden we're having a conversation. Well, that's going to build a relationship and a lot of rapport a lot faster. And this works for online advertising as well. So a few stats about kind of this idea of having a conversation. 50% of leads actually go with the first company that they talk to. This is a bigger indicator than the amount of, what the bill is, or how good the sales team is. It's just who they talk to first, who they form a relationship with. They've done studies, and people kind of feel an obligation to people that they have a relationship with. If you talk to somebody within 5 minutes of them submitting a form, well, they're really hot, they're 9 times more likely to actually turn into a purchase. And 38% of customers have made a purchase because of a positive chat experience. So conversation really works. As marketers, especially when it comes to online, we sometimes get lost in that. But if you're a small business owner or something like that, you may have a much more direct relationship with people and be really good at this. So this approach that we're going to talk about is a great way to take advantage of those skills that you probably already have. So the question is, how do you start that conversation? Do you do the creepy thing of, I see you're buying blue shoes, or at least you're interested, want a 20% discount? I mean, that ends up feeling like the creepy salesman looking over your shoulder. But there are a few different ways to start an effective conversation. And AdWords in particular, or almost any paid advertising route online, actually can set you up to really start a conversation that will get people talking and really get them much more likely to respond. So let's talk about AdWords real quick and why AdWords is a great medium for targeted chat. So when you have someone search for something online, say for example, Halloween's coming, I want to do a Harry Potter costume and I need a good wand. So I search Harry Potter wand online. You happen to sell Harry Potter wands, so you've got a keyword. My search triggers that keyword, which leads to your ad. And then hopefully if your ad's a good match for what I'm looking for, I click on it and the rest is hopefully history. Now what's interesting here is that the click in this case is actually telling you a lot. A little while back I was looking into virtual answering services. We were about 3 years old as a company. We really haven't had a receptionist, but we were starting to miss calls. We were starting to have opportunities that were being missed because calls were being missed. And so we started looking at some options. And one of the things we thought was, hey, virtual answering service might be good. So type this in, these two ads popped up. This answering service care.net ad, if you take a look at it, it has a lot of messaging that grabs your eye. So 24/7, never miss another call, secure messaging, call recording, all these things are speaking to the potential customer. So really, when you boil it down, the keyword that somebody types, or the search that someone types in that triggers your keyword, tells you a lot about what that person is particularly interested in. In this case, I didn't type in how much does a receptionist cost, hire a receptionist, I'm missing phone calls, how do I fix that? I didn't type in any of those sorts of generic things. I typed specifically in virtual answering service. That means that I am kind of an ideal fit. I know that I want their service. And then, because I clicked on this top ad, that means that something about their messaging resonated with me. If they had run an ad that said, you know, answering service, we're open normal business hours, and we'll take care of scheduling, where we're your virtual receptionist, but only during business hours. And my problem was that I had calls after hours, then I probably would go to the next one down that says 24/7 virtual answering. So the search term that I enter and the keyword that triggers tells us a lot about what is important to me. The ad that I click on and the messaging actually tells a lot about why that's important. And that is very helpful for starting a conversation. So if we click on this first ad here for answeringservicecare.net, here's the chat prompt that comes with that page. So it goes to their homepage, which isn't a great way to do a landing page. But this chat prompt stuck out to me. So thanks for stopping by. Can I help you with anything? Now think to yourself, when was the last time that you saw the Walmart greeter and you stopped and said, you know what, I'm looking for a shelf, it's white, it's probably got about 3 shelves on it, I need about 4 feet wide, where can I find something like that, right? Nobody asks the Walmart greeter that. Generic prompts get generic responses, and generic responses waste clicks. So at best, even if they're responding, they're probably, unless they've got a burning question, it's not that it's gonna really start a conversation. But on the other hand, they're probably not just going to respond at all, because the chat prompt itself doesn't say anything other than, hey, look, a chat prompt. I suppose if you're really desperate to chat with someone, we're here. So let's take things up a level. Let's use actually what they knew about me to create a better chat prompt. So for example, what if they said something like, try it yourself? Wondering what chatting with our service is like? Send us a message. Here, they would be using the fact that they knew that I was interested in a virtual answering service and that I was ending up on a page. I clicked on an ad, and so I'm interested in an answering service. Now it's a try before you buy sort of thing. They're demonstrating their value, and it's putting them in a better position. This at least connects with me more. There's a couple problems here still. It doesn't really speak to the reason why I would have been clicking on their ad. It just speaks to the what. Plus, they've got the name, email, and phone. I pretty much have to fill out a form before I can even respond. I know there's some reasons that people like to do this. If you're overwhelmed with chats, it might be a good idea, but generally speaking, I prefer to avoid this because it creates obstacles. If I'm trying to strike up a conversation with someone, I don't walk up and hand them a form and say, let's talk. So now let's look at one more example. Just wondering, what happened the last time your business missed an important call? Tell me your story. All of a sudden, this creates a very, very different experience. Now it puts me in the driver's seat and says, hey, I care about you. I care about your pain. I care about the why that brought you here, right? They know that most of their messaging is around, hey, are you moving? Are you losing calls or opportunities? And now if I, have a story like, oh, Microsoft, they do those Surface Pro videos, and they called me up, and then I tried to call back, but I missed it because I was with a client. I started telling my story. All of a sudden, how easy is it as the chat operator to find exactly what I care about, tailor a response, and say, you know what? We totally get it. we have clients all the time who come to us for this exact same reason. And guess what? 25 on average, our clients get 25% more more business using this just because they stop missing those important things. Or if I had a different complaint, they can tailor the business issue and that pain point to the solution. And now all of a sudden, I feel a connection with them and I feel a connection to their solution. It's right for me. And so very simple, very easy way to do it. Now, obviously, unless you've got the stalker marketer who's waiting and watching every person who's on the site. And I'll admit, I've been guilty of trying that just as an experiment. And I will throw my hat in the ring that usually stalking people and asking them very specific questions hasn't really generated a ton of response for me. It's okay, but the time investment versus the level of return just hasn't been that great. But there is a way to have these very targeted questions that are very specific to your target customer's pain points that you can actually have automated using the targeted rules. So let's sum up real quick. When you're creating a chat prompt, you want to use what you know about the customer, the what and the why that led to them to your site. Keep that messaging consistent from the ad to the prompt, just like you would with a good landing page. You want there to be a consistent experience, and then get them talking about their pain points. It's like just like good sales. You want people to talk about themselves. You want people to talk about what their problems are, and then that gives you everything that you need to know when you want to actually start talking about, hey, here's what our solution is that can fix your problem. People feel like you understand their problem and you've got a good solution, they're going to be way more likely to convert and buy. So let's talk about real quick setting things up. So hopefully if you're already doing AdWords, you should be tracking things using UTM parameters. If not, this is your call to action to improve. There's a lot of good things about UTM parameters. You can track your performance in analytics. You can, if you're using a CRM or even a spreadsheet, you can see which ads and ad clicks and campaigns are actually leading to the sales that you want, which makes it easy to evaluate which ads really deserve the most of your money. If you're not doing this, Google has a URL builder that makes it really easy. So you just type in your address and then type in your source, for example, Google or AdWords, whatever makes the most sense to you. And then your medium, CPC is kind of a standard one. And then your term, what the keyword is. And then your name, which should be like the specific ad that you're using, or whatever it is that you want to use as a specific trigger for that ad. Then it'll generate the URL for you. And then you copy the URL and then jump over into AdWords, and you can put it as your final URL. It's what they actually get sent to, but not what they see. And then it'll send them right to that, which is great because when it comes to Olark, now as Alicia was demonstrating, you can use in your current URL that segment. So you could even use the same landing page and potentially have different chat prompts that depend on the keyword that someone is specifically using. So they're searching for Harry Potter wand versus Harry Potter costume. You could have a different prompt for each one of those things that's matched to their intent. So let's tie all of this together real quick. You've got the relevant search, which triggers a keyword, which triggers your relevant text ad, which triggers your click, which now leads to a relevant chat prompt. So the question that we had earlier was, how does all this work? Well, in our experience, a regular chat prompt, the little thing like at the beginning where it pops up, says, hey, how can I help? I'm here, whatever it is. We can see about a 1.8% response rate. So 1.8% of the people who click on our ads or our clients' ads respond to the prompt. However, with this conversation starter approach, we have a 7.2% response rate. That's 4 times higher. So you get way more people responding. Now, just using a chat prompt, even the generic one, actually increases your conversion rates by about 7.67%. So if you're you've got a conversion rate of 50%, you're up to 53% by adding just a chat prompt. That's assuming, in our experience, about 50% of chats on marketing are like relevant leads that are ready to progress right now. A lot of them take a little while to come back around, but you built that rapport, and so that a lot of people actually end up coming back around. You've established a relationship, and it's great. With the conversation starter, you've got an increase in conversion rates of 20%, which is, I mean, so if you've got a 10% conversion rate, you're up to 12%. That can, depending on your traffic, that could be dozens to hundreds of extra leads and their associated sales. Plus, you've started the conversation, and usually people who've already had a conversation with you are more likely to close. Remember those statistics at the beginning? So it's a really great way to improve sales and conversion rates. So just to kind of compare the two, if you're already using a regular chat prompt and you adopt this strategy, you can get up to 11%, sometimes even more, conversions from your traffic, which for the investment of maybe a few hours of setting up these rules and these prompts, that's not too bad. So let's sum it up real quick. Conversations sell. Easiest way to start a conversation is talk about what people care about, which is what brought them to your site. And then to do that, just use the keywords that people are triggering and the ads that they click on to educate and determine what your chat prompt is. Use your UTM parameters to match those two together, and then enjoy the results. So that's it in a nutshell. And I appreciate you guys all attending and listening. If you're interested in learning more about this approach, feel free to email me, or if you'd like to see if Disruptive can help you out, email me or use www.disruptiveadvertising.com/Olark webinar. And just to say thank you for you attending this webinar, we'll actually build you a free landing page, no obligation, just to say thanks. So that's it for the presentation. What questions can we answer? Looks like we've got one from here from T. Collins. Can you use a keyword replacer? I'm going to defer to Alicia or Carl on this one. I don't know if you can use a keyword replacer on the targeted chat.
No, you can't actually use a keyword replacer in targeted chat. It doesn't accept any kind of variables that you can input into the fields. We do have this functionality if you have a developer on your team and want to use the API to create targeted chat rules, but in the web interface, it's not possible.
Cool. One sec, real quick. Sorry, I was going to actually ask you a question, Aden, and I was on mute there. That landing page offer, is that available to people watching the recorded version of this as well, or are we going to test them to see if they're alive?
Absolutely. Yep. Anybody who wants to take advantage of that, if you take the time to watch this and you're committed enough to your advertising, we want to help you. So.
Very generous. Thanks very much. I wanted to just address one quick question that seemed to keep coming in, and then we'll go back to the questions that have come. So it looks like T. Collins and Jay were both kind of asking what's available in the free versions versus what's available in the paid versions. So with the free version of Olark Live Chat, you do not have access to the targeted chat rules that we were talking about today. You will, however, be able to go into your settings dashboard and customize the text that's in your chat box. So the way that Aden was talking about customizing the question that's in your chat box, the lead question, and then the supplemental text below that, you can, in the free version, customize that in your settings dashboard.
And I would definitely recommend that, as Carl was mentioning, just creating some stuff that stands out a little bit, that engages people. Again, that rule of start a conversation. Even if you can't get as specific as using the UTM parameters, you're going to see better results just from actually, unless you're specifically trying to do like a customer support thing. But if you're trying to market with it, be a marketer, interrupt a little bit, be a little eye-catching, and you will see much better results.
Yep. And also, I think it's worth mentioning, T. Collins asked this, yes, so the recorded version of this webinar will be emailed to everybody who signed up. We usually get that done in 2 or 3 days. So keep an eye out for that. You'll be able to rewatch it there. If you'd like to, Aden was also nice enough to write a blog article for us that outlines his method that he went through in the webinar today. So if you go to blog.olark.com, the top article on our blog is actually Aden's blog about how to perform that process that he walked you through today. And you can see, again, how he achieved that, where he went to achieve that, and that's there for you as well. So.
And also, just if you are kind of a heavy blogger, you can actually also use this approach for your content and other things. We found that the same idea works just like if somebody's looking at a particular blog article, that's a high indication that they're interested in that particular topic. So asking questions that are specific to that topic or to a group of topics, if you've got thousands of blog posts, you might break it down into specific categories and have category-based questions. But with the targeted rules, it can be a great way to really connect with people and actually turn those blog visitors into leads and sales for your business.
Great. So Aden, the user Ledbury asks, what are good conversation starters for an e-commerce apparel company? Do you have any suggestions on that?
So I would probably look at your typical customer base. If you have a buyer persona, it helps a lot. So if you're like in high fashion, I might almost even ask questions like, a lot of people who are looking at apparel are browsing, and they're doing a little research. They might come back later. They might buy now, but you want to make them feel like you're really invested in them specifically. So I might use a conversation prompt like, how do you feel about the cut of this particular shirt? Or, and then just questions about the sort, or, is there any, just thinking off the cuff here a little bit for apparel. I haven't tried this with apparel yet. But really kind of dialing into like, what are people interested in? So if I'm looking for a shirt online, I'm probably looking for a, honestly, my wife does my shopping for shirts online for me. So if I'm looking at it, it's probably because she told me to. And it might be interesting to take a look and say, okay, what is, maybe it's the wife who's looking, and say, are you thinking about this as a gift or for yourself? Or something like that, that kind of gets at the why of why they might be looking. So I would almost sit and brainstorm, okay, what are the whys why most of my customers are here? And if it's, they like the cheapest price, you might talk about something like that, like, trying to think here, maybe something along the lines of, because you don't want to sell right off. You want to do something like, what sort of price range are you looking for? Or did you have a specific budget in mind? Or got a special event coming up? Or anything that kind of around that why of like, okay, maybe it's around the price. Maybe it's about, hey, maybe we sell sporting clothes. Question of like, how's your team performing? Something like that might tie into the why behind what they're actually doing. Is that helpful?
Yeah, and I would even add on to that too, Aden. Another example that comes to mind for me is like if I were looking for a car, maybe somebody starts with, did you know this car gets 100 miles to the gallon, or something. Again, to your point, we have some insight on the why they're on our site. So if you can target that question specifically to something that's going to interest them or pique their interest and get them talking, those are usually good questions to ask, which I think T. Collins was just asking us to clarify. So questions about specific things work best. But I think,
so I would go with specific questions that are related to the why. Of course, you're not going to know exactly what their why is, and I don't know that I would tie it specifically, like if it is an apparel sort of thing, to that one article of clothing. Again, the more SKUs you have, the harder it's going to be. But the more specific that you can be, the more it's going to help jog people out of this, oh, I'm being marketed to sort of thing. It kind of personalizes the experience, which tends to produce better results. So, for example, just using something from my world, if I have a blog post that's all about, for example, this topic, and I'm like, here's how to use, the blog post is about how to use AdWords to get better results from your, how to use your keywords so you get better results from your Olark chats. I might even just ask a question. It's like, so how are you, what sort of prompt are you using on your chats? Or do you have any ideas, like the sort of questions almost that you guys are asking, I might ask them, because then that allows them to become part of the conversation. So similarly with an e-commerce sort of thing, asking the questions about, like, why do they care? Why are they actually looking at this, right? They could go to Walmart and pick up a pair of jeans. Why are they on your site looking at your jeans? And if you've got a sense for that, then I would use that to kind of specifically ask about those sorts of reasons. So it's a little bit of a balancing act between, you don't know exactly what they're here for, but you know enough to ask a question that will lead them to tell you more. And if you can balance those two, then you usually do a pretty good job of getting people to respond.
Great. Aden, Quest asks, can we have different conversation starters based on ad group?
So if you include in your UTM parameters, which you can, that builder that I was showing you does not have an ad group thing in it. There's some other ones elsewhere that'll do it. But if you build into your UTM parameters an ad group level, you're going to be using specific URLs for your ads, but if you're using the same core element for a particular ad group, and that's in all of those URLs, then you can just pick that specific element. Likewise, if you're using a specific page, a landing page for 5, 10, 15 ads, but they're all very relevant to that, you could potentially use the same chat prompt on that landing page that's just specific to that landing page.
Okay. John Meacham asked, would we be willing to share the study that we referenced with the 50% of leads stat in it?
We don't have that formally written up as a study, so I'd be happy if you email me to give you some more details on the results behind that, though.
Sure. Yeah, it's probably worth pointing out that Disruptive Advertising has a lot of different clients in different businesses, so a lot of their information comes directly from experiments that they've run for their clients. So Aden's been nice enough to share some of that information with us here, but it's not always public information. Information they're willing to share in the webinar, but not necessarily something they've published. But that's a very nice offer. Shoot Aden a note. His email is there on the final slide, and he can share with you what he can. Alicia, this one might go back for you. BSTAP asks, in Olark, what's the difference between targeted chat rules and the greeter? Does one overrule the other? That's a good question.
Yeah, that is a good question. So targeted chat rules and the greeter, under the hood, they're using the same logic. So they're relatively the same thing. The greeter is just a kind of simplified version that just works on based on seconds. So, based on 5 seconds on the page, it just sends a simple greeting to the messenger or the visitor that says like, hello, or how are you doing, or whatever you want to put there. So I would recommend either doing one or the other. Greeter is just, like I said before, kind of a simple thing. And targeted chat is for if you want to kind of get more into the nitty gritty and do some kind of more unique things. So I would definitely recommend not using them at the same time.
Yep. And then last question that I have here is from Ben, who asks, if we have a general targeted chat set up to hit after someone is on the site for 180 seconds, how can we make sure that message / pop-up doesn't appear if another targeted chat is set up to appear when they're on a specific page? So it sounds like they're asking if you have a targeted chat rule that relies on time and a targeted chat rule that relies on a specific page. Is there a way to make sure you're not sending 2 automated messages at the same time?
That's a tough one. I don't believe there actually is a way to do that. How targeted chat works is basically once you send a targeted chat message, say on a certain page, that becomes part of the conversation in the session. So we store the messages just in a user session. So we wouldn't be able to say delete that targeted message or prevent another one without actually having to delete the conversation session, which could cause really weird behavior. So unfortunately, I don't believe we have the capability to do that.
Well, and just to throw my 2 cents in, personally, if somebody's on your site for 180 seconds and they didn't respond to your first chat, unless like there's something way off base, I don't see actually all that much harm with popping something up in front of them, that even if it is a little bit more generic. So personally, I wouldn't feel uncomfortable with having both of those rules running simultaneously. But it would all depend on what the specific prompts were, of course.
Right, sure. And Ben, I guess if you're having issues with that, if that's a rule, if those are 2 rules you have set up and you're running into issues already, sorry, I'm just reading your chat. Got it. Okay. So then Alicia Ben says, he expands on that. He says, I'm looking to set up a specific targeted chat based on the page they are on after 30 seconds, but then a more general one that pops after 180 seconds.
Yeah. So kind of just like I said before, so if you want to have one that pops up after 30 seconds for the specific page, that one would pop up first, and then your general one would pop up right afterwards. There's no way to prevent it. But in that case, I don't think, like Aden was saying, that it would be too much of a weird experience for the user. It's kind of just like an extra prompt, like, hey, we're here if you need us. I don't really think that there would be too strange on a visitor experience end.
And if the conversation has already initiated and the timed targeted chat rule is in there, will that fire into the middle of a conversation, or once a conversation has begun, do the targeted chat rules then stay dormant?
Yeah, so once a conversation starts, the targeted chat rules will stay dormant if they're sending a message. If it's like a hide the chat box or something, then it will still work. But you're not going to have a conversation between your operator and visitor and then have a random message pop in there, so you don't have to worry about that.
Great. Thanks, Alicia. And Ben and everybody who's listening, if you are experimenting with chat rules and finding some weird behavior or hearing from your visitors about weird behavior, you can always come to olark.com and chat with us. That's where our support team and our engineers live. And we'd be happy to walk you through. We can even take a look on the back end at some of the rules you've set up and walk you through a proper setup or help fix weird behavior. So come chat with us if you are having any more issues, or if you've got more in-depth questions for us, we're happy to help out. It's about 3 minutes before the hour, and I promise to let everybody go by 2 o'clock so we can get out and have recess. If there are any last questions, we've got just maybe 1 minute left, but what I'd advise you to do is drop Aden a note if you have a question. He's been gracious enough to offer his email here. My name is Carl, and that's Karl @olark.com. I'm happy to help with any follow-up. You'll receive an email from us in about 2 or 3 days with the recorded version of this webinar. And like I said, we'll also include some helpful articles in that as well. The blog article that I mentioned, some of our helpful articles on targeted chat rules here as well. So without any other questions, yeah, hey, Kostas, thanks for joining us from Greece. Thank you very much. Aden, Alicia, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who joined us. And we're going to sign off. Take care. Have a great Thursday.
Bye, everybody.
See you later.